All yours, Vicky.
Yeah. So welcome everybody, and welcome back to those who are here for the third time. So this is the final series on our kind of marketing workshops. If you missed the last two, as Felicity said, they will be up on YouTube for you to have a look at. So this session we're going to be looking at 2021 digital marketing trends. Again, really important area to look at now to kind of get you into gear, ready for what's going to be on trend next year. So a little bit about me, if you don't know. So I am the founder of Vicky White Communications. It's all in the name. I've got 10 plus years experience, particularly helping charities and SMEs with their marketing. Everything from kind of strategy planning into kind of implementation. I'm a kind of consultant, so I come in and advise and support organisations as and when they need it. A trainer, so one-to-one group training sessions. Project manager, so kind of larger kind of marketing campaigns, I kind of oversee those to make sure everyone's doing everything they need to be doing. And an implementer, so I get the job done. I do have a team of marketing and creative experts that come in as and when they're needed. And my service is flexible, cost effective, and absolutely results driven. That's my aim. And if you didn't know already, I am the kind of marketing manager for the Claire Foundation. So I've been helping them now for, this year, but before that, prior to that, doing kind of consultancy and ad hoc support about 3 years prior to that. So some of the key areas we're going to cover off today, which I hope sits in with what everyone was hoping for. If you do have any other areas or any questions throughout the presentation, you can put them into the chat. We will stop a couple of times, so it's going to be an interactive session, so we will stop a couple of times during the presentation, opportunity for you to ask questions and for us to kind of have a chat as we go through. And then at the end, we'll have a question session as well. So looking at social media marketing, obviously a big factor for charities next year. Email marketing, still a really fantastic tool that we should still be using, and we'll be looking at some developments in that area. Google and SEO, so what's coming up next year. If you've not optimized your website or looked at SEO before, we'll be looking at some of the key kind of areas that are going to be kind of really key for next year. And video marketing, as we all know, video is massively grown, particularly this year. So we'll be looking at how charities and not-for-profits can kind of tap into video. Content marketing, so another big area that we'll be looking at, and is going to be probably one of the biggest into next year that's going to kind of see some changes. So donations, so looking at your website and social media content, so looking at all areas around donations and tapping into fundraising as well, and looking at those kind of core elements within the charity sector. And voice search, so another big one more recently that's becoming, which has grown enormously, and we'll look at some stats there and how you can optimize your channels for voice search. And virtual reality, an interesting one that popped up in my research over the last few weeks. It's an area that the charity sector has been using before, but I kind of want to touch on it because it's not something that's regularly talked about. So I do want to kind of have a look at that. So why look at trends? So a few kind of key points here that I just want to pinpoint. Fundraising efforts now, they are predominantly online. So it's, turning more efforts into kind of, now more kind of financial contributions than ever before. With COVID-19, it's encouraged people to be, a lot more giving and a lot more community-led. So we have to really make sure that we're looking at these changes that are kind of happening within, economic changes, society changes, and how we can adapt our strategies to make sure we're speaking to our audience in the right way across the right channels. I've mentioned obviously adapting to economic changes, with the digital age. It's all about looking at kind of what your customers need right now, and it's giving them the right types of information at the right time in the right place. So we'll be looking at how kind of the changes that we've had this year has affected our kind of marketing activity. Staying competitive, obviously kind of a really kind of important area to look at. Adapting for Gen Z. So these are kind of your audience that kind of born after 1996. They're a lot more digitally savvy, and it's all about kind of keeping up with your audiences to make sure that you're using the right digital channels in the right way. That kind of Gen Z, they're a lot more socially conscious than other generations, and making sure your content is accessible to them. So again, looking at that kind of age demographic, what types of channels they're using and how they like to be communicated to. So, we talked about kind of meeting customer needs, again, looking at Gen Z and making sure that we're tapping into kind of their needs. People are using digital channels now more than they ever have done before. So it's making sure we're kind of keeping on top of those digital changes and adapting to make sure, your information is accessible to their needs. Again, increasing brand awareness. It's really important we stay on trend to make sure we're appearing, across the digital channel and as much as possible. So we're looking at the different types of channels that you're using, how you can create that engagement, how you can get your kind of organization brand kind of out there and recognized. So, again, it's all about here looking at kind of consistency. And providing, a seamless service. So again, it's adapting kind of your technology methods, to be able to provide a seamless service. Looking at things like, how easy is your kind of donation process? What are your communication methods? It's thinking about particularly digital communication like chatbots and automations. So it's all about, how you can be a lot more kind of sophisticated and a lot more digitally savvy to provide that kind of seamless service for your audience. So obviously, yeah, one of the kind of real big factors I know a lot of you are kind of interested to learn about. Obviously I haven't got the time here to kind of talk about, social media in general, but, particularly in this presentation, I really want to tap into kind of what's new next year. So we've got the likes of, Instagram Reels. So, what we've had before are stories, which have been kind of really on trend this year. But more recently, Instagram Reels have become really, really popular. So they are video, but they are 15 seconds long rather than 30 seconds long. One of the key points here is to make sure that you're using text within your videos. There's some kind of easy to use editing tools on the Instagram channel, and making sure kind of you're engaging, and adding value to your kind of content that you're sharing out and to your audience. Encouraging your followers to share and save your videos is going to be really kind of important to increase that brand awareness, and making sure that your messages are really, really interesting and engaging. Obviously, you've got 15 seconds, so it's important that you're really kind of capturing people straight away and you're getting all the information that you need into that 15-second video. So definitely Instagram Reels is something to think about if you're particularly using Instagram to reach your audience. Another point with Instagram as well, there's been some changes. So Instagram have been using kind of SEO a little bit within their channel. So whereas you used to use the search bar to type in kind of what you want to find out about, it would only before pick up hashtags that you've used to help you to kind of feature in results. What they've changed now is that they're actually optimizing your profile and your content as well as your hashtags. So again, it's really important here that on your profile, you've got all the right keywords in there, that if somebody did search for your type of organization, you're going to appear in those results. And again, thinking about when you're posting moving forward in terms of kind of the content that you're writing, that again, you're capturing your keywords in there. So again, two particular developments within Instagram that I wanted to mention. Moving on to TikTok. I know a lot of you are probably cringing in your boots right now. TikTok is a great channel if you're targeting your younger kind of audience. 41% of TikTok audience are young people aged 16 to 24. If you're targeting that age group, you must be on TikTok. If you're not, I wouldn't worry too much right now. It's still very much a young audience, a young platform. So again, think about how you're kind of using TikTok to kind of reach your audience if you're targeting the younger market. I wanted just to mention here kind of SMS marketing. Obviously, it's been around for a while, but what's changed more recently is actually how people are kind of reacting to SMS marketing. And I just wanted to kind of point out here that 75% of consumers now saying they are comfortable receiving texts from brands. So, you know, if you are thinking about using SMS marketing, but you're not actually sure how your audience are going to react to it, actually, I think more recently now they are adapting. So again, something to think about moving forward. I did just want to touch here on kind of e-commerce online purchases. It might not be something for many of you, but there kind of has been some kind of changes, particularly with Instagram and Facebook. They are already beginning to integrate in-app purchasing. So again, it's providing their audience kind of with a really kind of quick and easy way to kind of increase sales or purchases, and it's all about making and ensuring that kind of that seamless service. Chatbots and messengers. Again, I think, you know, more now than ever, a lot of individuals are wanting information right now, and I think that particularly plays on the kind of the video element as well. I think it's just that kind of instant piece of content, or that instant piece of, you know, of information that they need and that they can just get right now. You know, you've got Facebook, which has a great kind of chatbot and messaging tool. So, you know, if you're, you know, targeting consumers, you 100% have a look at Instagram Messenger, look at their kind of chatbot, how you can instantly engage into your Facebook audience straight away and provide them with information that they need. I think one kind of real benefit here, which I've seen quite recently with a couple of charities, is that they really kind of want to try and, where they can, stop, you know, those inquiries that they're getting that they could actually answer either via kind of their website facts page or, you know, via Facebook, you know, chatbot. So you can kind of, you know, it does kind of support and help with that kind of customer service element as well. And what you can do as well with the messengers and chatbots is you can actually gain data. So if you're kind of collecting information through the chatbots, you can then separate that data. You know, you can upload it from Facebook, and you can use that data to segment into different audiences. which you can then use to market on other channels and communicate with them in other ways. So touching on kind of YouTube growth, again, this really kind of plays on the video element, which we will come on to later on. But I just kind of wanted to pinpoint with YouTube, obviously, in terms of its growth. So, you know, the platform has kind of massively grown. A lot more individuals, organisations, charities are using YouTube to kind of tell a story and to kind of engage with their audience. And I think it's just probably just key here just to pinpoint that, you know, you have to make yourself stand out and make yourself kind of differentiate from other kind of similar organisations from day one. And make sure kind of you're consistently uploading videos to kind of re-engage and keep people kind of connected into your channel, and encouraging them to you know, to kind of follow and connect with you as well on the channel is going to be really kind of important, you know, and it builds that kind of loyalty that what you want. We know video is a lot more engaging than it is content, so just making sure that you know, you're reaching kind of your audience using this channel and sharing your video across other channels. Again, when we talked about SEO on our last presentation a couple of weeks ago, you know, you've got to make sure that you're building that traffic into your video. So make sure you're including it within your email marketing campaigns, share them across your other social media channels, and just ask your, you know, your connections and your community to engage in your video. To make sure, because that obviously helps to build up your visibility and helps you to be found within the channel and also on Google. Again, I wanted to touch on LinkedIn. Obviously this year we've seen LinkedIn really kind of come out of its shell. We've seen LinkedIn Live, we've seen LinkedIn events, polls, and more recently stories. I don't know if many of you know, but yeah, LinkedIn has a kind of a story feature now, like Instagram and Facebook. There are kind of two elements I want to touch on LinkedIn. One is kind of the personal element of it, obviously using LinkedIn as your kind of personal brand, and then using it as a kind of an organization. I think one thing that's changed and adapted more recently is kind of the personal element in terms of, you know, it's a lot more conversational now. I don't know if you've noticed, but, you know, a lot more people are kind of asking questions. You know, they're creating polls. You know, they're kind of sharing lots of photos, you know, about their kind of work day. And then obviously they're using the kind of story feature to add kind of instant kind of snippets of what they're up to. You know, and they've been sharing, you know, career milestones. You know, it's kind of important that, you know, when you're using LinkedIn, that you're not just on your personal account using it for work, but you're kind of integrating that kind of personal element into it as well. Because, you know, I think it's great when people see kind of the person as well behind the job role or the organization. It, you know, it really does bring and draw people in. You know, I posted a couple of weeks ago about, you know, my 8-year milestone and kind of incorporated, you know, setting up my business while bringing up, you know, my son from a young age. And, you know, so it's tying both those, but it really does, you know, draw people in and bring that kind of personable kind of feel to your posts. And I think I haven't specifically looked back yet, but I think it was my best post of the year on hindsight. So maybe kind of think about that when you're posting on your LinkedIn personal profile as well, at how you can really engage and draw people into you as an individual. And on kind of the business side of it, again, you know, we've seen conversations more recently focused around public and political and kind of social and economic issues. So, you know, but why does this matter? You know, and it's shifting because, you know, brands like to kind of, you know, speak up and share their values. So, you know, and kind of what I'm saying here is kind of continue to do that, continue to talk about what's trending right now. What are people talking about now? Engage in conversations, ask open-minded questions. try and kind of tap into those particular areas on LinkedIn moving into next year. Just some of the kind of couple of points that I've kind of picked up on more recently. And just a kind of a little point here that I put, 31% of adults aged 18 to 24 have taken part in a social media fundraiser since the pandemic. So again, I keep going back to Gen Z, but I think this is kind of really important because they have massively grown in terms of how they're engaging in charities. They're a lot more open to it. They're a lot more visibly aware of what's, of what's happening with particular charities. And it's the biggest growth actually this year in terms of age groups. Okay, just stop for maybe some questions at this point, if there are any in the chat.
We haven't had any come in. Has anyone got a question that they want to ask? Well, Karen, do you want to unmute? You are unmuted.
I'm a freelancer in marketing, but I'm also a trustee of a local charity. How do you, a lot of what we're talking about is national broadcasting, if you like. How do we are we able to select regionality? I know you can on Facebook and whatever, but what about Instagram or some of the other methods? If we can get into the targeting regions is my question really. How do we do that?
Yeah, so you can, particularly with social media, you've got your kind of location setting when you are posting. So just make sure you're always setting your location. When you're using hashtags, use your kind of locations within your hashtags. We'll move on to kind of Google and SEO in a moment as well. So that will cover a little bit more about kind of location targeting. But I think, if you're targeting by location as well, using social media, look at kind of your local groups, where there might be kind of community groups or business groups, networking groups, tap into those using social media as well as well as offline. So, building kind of those collaborations. And I think I will mention collaborations in a moment, but I think it's looking at, other organizations that, that kind of complement, I guess, what you do as well, and how you can use digital marketing together. So if they're very much in your location, and they're targeting a location as well, is getting them involved with what you're doing, sharing an article that you've written, or, encouraging them to share your posts and engage. I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, great, thanks. I think I just need, because I'm not employed by the charity, but I obviously have my nose in it. I'm just trying to feel my way into how I can just click into the not for profit, but also fine tuning my skills in terms of can we reacquainting myself with the social media side of it, and trying to determine, yes, can we do something a bit targeted and more regional. But yeah, thank you, that was good.
Good.
Melinda, oh, sorry,
Felicity. Vicky, is there anything new coming down the tracks for us? Is there anything that in the digital world that's been explored by one of these big tech companies?
Sorry, say that again, Martin.
Is there anything new coming? Is there a new version of a new type of TikTok or TalkTik, or is there a new platform, or have these Silicon Valley organizations come up with something new that's going to be revealed to us in 2021 or 2022 that we should keep an eye out for?
Not that I'm aware of. I think there's been just lots of developments again with the likes of TikTok and Instagram, but no, I'm not aware of any kind of new social media or tools.
Okay, thanks.
Trouble is they come out so quickly, don't they? You never.
I mean, it changes all the time. I mean, this time next week there could be a new trending channel, or or a new tool that everyone needs to tap into, or a new development. So again, the same with these trends, you just need to keep on top and keep maybe follow some of the marketing organizations like Marketing Week, You've got Search Engine Journal, which supports with SEO. You've got SEMrush, you've got WordStream. So maybe just signing up to their newsletters, can always help to keep on top with what's happening.
Melinda's got a question about MailChimp. Is this something that you're going to cover later on, or?
In terms of, what's trending, yeah.
Perfect. Melinda, we'll come back to you. Camille, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Hi, yes, thanks. Thank you for that, Vicky. It was really, really helpful. We're quite a small charity, and I'm a one-woman band. And I was just wondering, how many should you prioritize in terms of platforms? Is it better to go for like 2 and do them really well and really focus on them, or do you try and put your eggs in many baskets?
Yeah, it's a very good question, actually, because I think, a lot of organizations think they have to be on every single channel, and like Martin's just said, what's new, what's coming up that we need to get into. Well, actually, you don't need to be on every single channel. When I've talked about kind of TikTok, it's not for every organization or charity. I think, depending on who your audience are, you've got your kind of business audience, your corporate side, and then you've got your kind of consumers. So I think focus on where your audience sits. So if you're targeting kind of consumers, you want to be using Facebook and Instagram. If you're targeting kind of the corporate side, you probably want to be more using kind of LinkedIn and Twitter. And on the consumer side, again, TikTok. So I would think about where your audience are, where they predominantly sit, and focus your efforts there. And again, it might just be a lot of testing in the beginning to see what's working, what's not. So maybe you want to tackle 3 channels for maybe 3 or 4 months to get some real good insights, and then make a decision about how you move forward.
Yeah, I think I need to target post more. So if it's business to business, LinkedIn, and not necessarily post everywhere for everything in the hopes something sticks. So thank you, that's really helpful.
Yeah, so obviously your LinkedIn side, it's going to be kind of a lot more formal than it would be on, I guess, Instagram, and Twitter is a lot more kind of shorter and snappy, whereas LinkedIn is probably more of a kind of sharing your kind of values and your thoughts, and more kind of thought leadership pieces. And so I guess, maybe don't kind of look at the demographic too much, as well as also thinking about content and kind of how you're kind of speaking to people, because you'll speak to them in different ways on different channels.
Yeah, that's so helpful. Thanks, Vicky.
All right.
Thanks, Camille. Helen's got a comment about sort of networking, the rise in networking with social media. Do you want to say your comment, Helen?
It was just to really make people aware that the amount of networking via social media platforms has really kind of accelerated during lockdown. So I'm sure everyone on the call may already be aware, but Facebook groups and more Twitter traffic, in particular LinkedIn groups, and for different types of charity professionals and volunteers. So some groups focusing on fundraising, some on marketing. So if you haven't already explored what's out there, I'd say have a little search and see what's out there. Most of the groups are freely available, and there's no kind of membership cost. Some more kind of professional networks obviously have a membership cost, and then they have a closed Facebook group to go with it. But I've found them quite useful, obviously working from home, being able to tap into the ideas of other people in the sector.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that. Karen, I know we're going to move on in a second, but there's another question just coming in from Karen. Do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Oh, you need to unmute.
I tried to unmute within the chat box and it didn't let me. Technical thing. I've been looking at SEMrush, which obviously is $99 a month on a different client and things. Is there a SEMrush product for charities where you can get it for free? You know how you can get like Canva Pro free if you're a registered charity, so for design. But I wondered if there was any metric kind of analysis tool.
aware.
Or cheaper than $99
Yeah.
a month, because, you know, as small charities, we don't need to be looking at all this all the time. You know, once you sort of, you know, you don't need to revisit everything all the time. So $99 a month is, I'd rather get that spent on something else. But any tips on that?
I know there are kind of a lot of these, you know, marketing tools, you know, the likes of MailChimp, and you've mentioned Canva, that are kind of offering charities kind of free access. In terms of a whole kind of marketing management tool, I'm not sure. So I will look at that and come back to you.
Brilliant, thank you.
Brilliant. Right, I think we're going to have the opportunity for more questions again in the presentation. So if you do come up with anything while Vicky's presenting, pop it in the chat box and we can come back to it. But thanks for that.
Okay, so looking at obviously email marketing, we know has been around for kind of a very, very long time. There's been kind of lots of changes over the years. You know, now it's a lot more kind of sophisticated in terms of how you can use your data to reach your audience. You know, and I think with kind of email marketing kind of moving forward, you know, 300 billion emails sent every day, to make sure that kind of you're not kind of lost in the clutter. So just starting off with, you know, your audience kind of segmentation, looking at kind of how you can break down kind of your audience into kind of specific groups, if you like. So you can use the likes of MailChimp or other kind of email marketing tools to help you to kind of do this. And it's looking at, you know, things like maybe age groups, or where they're located, what their interests are. You know, depending on the level of data that you've got, you can really kind of help by segmenting them to be kind of a lot more targeted, and basically sending information to them that's a lot more relevant in terms of the content that you're sending. You know, looking at kind of your insights as well into kind of how your audience are engaging, you know, particularly looking kind of open rates, click-through rates, bounce rates. You know, you can also look at kind of your current and frequent donors. You know, if you've got basically, if you've got a, you know, a segment that's maybe not performing as well, and it might be those that haven't maybe opened or clicked through to an email in the last 6 months, you can then create a separate campaign for them, to target them, to say, you know, whatever message it is, and into why, or maybe try and re-engage them, I guess, into your email marketing campaigns. You know, and it might be rewarding them, maybe it might be giving them an incentive to reach out to you and to engage in your organization. So personalization is going to be a really kind of key factor moving into next year. You know, generic emails now are a thing of the past. You've got to be kind of more personable, and you can, you know, add that kind of personalization in using kind of merge tags. So you can kind of add a merge tag as a kind of the first name, to make sure that kind of first name pulls through. You can use merge tags for organization, and it's just making sure, you know, within your content that you're kind of really adding that kind of personal touch. And even subject lines as well, you can add the merge tags in to actually help to increase your open rate. So it's just all about being a lot more kind of personable. Automations, again, a lot more kind of advanced and sophisticated now. So again, thinking about how, you know, your audience life cycle stage and how you can communicate to them through email. You can set up, you know, welcome emails when they maybe sign up to your newsletter. You know, once they've signed up to the newsletter, you can then take them through kind of an automation process of maybe sending them an email every maybe 2 or 3 weeks until they take an action. So, you know, automations are kind of really great in terms of, you know, taking them on a journey into your organizations to help them convert into a customer. And you know, it helps you as well because you're sending them emails, you're communicating with them at the right time. You know, it might be if they've shown an interest maybe in a particular article, that you then re-engage them with a similar article, or it might be kind of upselling them with a kind of an email maybe a couple of weeks later. You know, so it's all about being a lot more kind of streamlined and sophisticated with how you're communicating with your audience. And you've got also lastly triggers kind of based on behavior. So again, we've talked a little bit about this, but using kind of your marketing software like, you know, MailChimp or HubSpot, whatever kind of software you're using, but you can, you know, trigger kind of content based on their behaviors. And you can use your CRM as well to kind of support you with this, to help you to kind of integrate your CRM into your MailChimp to actually get the data that you need. So if they've downloaded a document, for example, on your website, or downloaded a document from an email campaign, you can then basically trigger another email maybe to go out a week later, or it might be, you know, with MailChimp, you can obviously use direct mail, you can use advertising. So, you know, there's lots of kind of in-depth features within these email marketing tools to help you to communicate with your audience in a more smarter way. So looking at Google and SEO, I know this is something that we looked at, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it, the last presentation? But again, just wanted to really kind of look at next year as kind of a core focus, as to kind of what's going to be important for you to make sure that you're featuring in search engine results and you're building your online visibility. I think, you know, starting off with kind of long-tailed keywords. So this is all going to kind of making sure that you're doing an in-depth kind of keyword research task at the beginning. So using the likes of the Google keyword planner, using Google search, you know, when you start typing into Google search, it comes up with the most popular search for phrases. So using kind of both those tools to really kind of try and capture your longer tailed keywords in terms of how are people searching for your type of organization. It's going to be really, really important that you do this moving into next year, and this is kind of a part of your Google strategy, because Google is going to look at kind of content in a lot more in-depth way. It's going to be look at how people are engaging in your website content within your articles. How long are they spending on your website? How interactive is it? You know, have you got kind of links within your content that go to other pages on your website or go to an external authoritative resource, you know, like maybe the government website or the BBC or something like that, you know, a trusted, well-known organization. It's going to be all about captivating and engaging your audience with useful, well-organized content, and keeping them, as I say, on the website for as long as possible. So looking at kind of long form content, this is something I mentioned in the last presentation when we talked about SEO. If you can create maybe once a month a really kind of long tailed content piece, 3,000 plus words, which I know sounds really terrifying, but Google really, really loves these types of content pieces because, you know, one kind of key fact is that they actually get 3 times more traffic and 4 times more shares and achieve higher search rankings. So if you can actually achieve that maybe once a month, create a really kind of longer tail piece. I think it's also important here that you are still providing value, keep on topic, get your keywords in there, separate your articles with subheadings, get your keywords into your subheadings, add in a video, add in some imagery, link to a podcast or a webinar. Try and keep them within your website as long as possible. And try and avoid kind of bounce rates. So when you are sharing content out on social media or on your email marketing campaigns, make sure you're clear when you're actually introducing your content piece or your service page, that when they land there, it's what they expect to see. You don't want to have a high bounce rate on a page, because Google won't favor that. Share buttons as well. So with blogs, you know, you can have your social media channels on there to encourage them to share your content piece. Again, Google will love that. Mobile first indexing. Again, we all know that the mobile ranking factor came in, I think it was a couple of years ago. Last year, Google rolled out mobile first indexing, which means it will rank your website based on how it's optimized for mobile. I've put a little link in here, so when you get this presentation document, you can do a test using this link, and it will tell you how well your website ranks for mobile. This is really, really important that you make sure that your website is mobile friendly. Mobile kind of use is massively grown and will continue to grow massively into next year. Video, again, we will look at video in the next slide, but just wanted to kind of reiterate that Google loves video. So as much video as you can do, embed your video onto your website, write a content piece on that page around your video, use your keywords, as much video, I guess, as you can do that provides value. Keep video at the top of your marketing plans for next year. So the Google Eat principle, I wanted to talk a little bit about here, which is going to be massively important for next year again. It's expertise, authoritiveness, and trustworthiness. When you come to writing content, it's important you kind of bear those 3 things in mind to help Google to rank your article or your website page or whatever it is that you're doing, or your video. You know, backup claims on your articles or on your pages with statistics and facts. Google loves those. Link to reputable sites, as I said, like the government website or BBC or the Guardian. Having authoritative sites linked back to you is a really valuable way of building Google authority with your website. If you can get the likes of the BBC or the government to link to your website, or even if you know, we talked about kind of local SEO, looking at kind of those local organisations that are really trusted by Google or trusted in your area. You know, it might be, I don't know, maybe an NHS website, or a local authority or association. Ask them to link back into your website, you know, and it might be they have a recommended page where they have companies that they recommend, or it might be maybe you can write an article for them and then link back into your website. Think about kind of backlinks in terms of your SEO. Featured snippets, again, maybe I don't know if many of you know what they are, but when you search for something on a website, I did one the other day for a recipe, and then I had a big block of recipes that came up in boxes at the top. They're your featured snippets. They're all about predominantly questions. So when people ask a question, how do I bake a Victoria sponge cake, or how much chocolate do I put into my cookies, for, you know, whatever question it might be, to picking baking as one example. Building content around those questions is really kind of going to help you to kind of feature in those results. Feature snippets is a plugin that you can add to your website. Again, speak with a marketing expert or a developer on how to kind of install that and get that going. But it's basically highlighting important information on your articles that you really want Google to kind of pick up on. And by highlighting those data, that piece of data helps Google to kind of rank it for those search queries. So again, I'm not going to go too technical into it, but speak to, you know, your marketing person or your web developer to kind of help support with that and get that up onto your website. It's just, it's another bold area at the top that really can help you to feature in results. Don't know if you're all aware, maybe not. A few days ago, Google rolled out its next core update. The last core update was in May. They only happen 2 or 3 times a year, and it's Google's way of, they like to say, improving the way people use Google or find information. It can go really wrong for those that aren't keeping on trend with SEO and Google, and it can do wonders for those that have been consistent with their SEO and Google. If you're wanting to be found on search engines, this is why it's really important that you have to stay on top of your optimization of your website, because you can be #1 spot and then down to 200 in the matter of minutes. What those core updates are, they're still rolling out. You can Google it and keep on top of kind of what's happening, but there's been no fixed saying of what's changed or what they've updated yet. But I've seen organisations go from top to bottom overnight because of these core updates. So again, it's important you always keep on top of them. As I say, they roll out 2 or 3 times a year. Okay, video, obviously I've mentioned briefly, I just put a couple of little images here. The top one, it's come from quite a video marketing survey this year, just to give you an idea on how video has positively affected organisations. As you can see this year, 88%, really, really high. Video next year is expected to make up 82% of all online traffic. So Google is going to be ranking video a lot more higher than it has done ever before, which is why video is going to be massively important for you rolling into next year. You know, similar to personalization, you know, video has been a non-profit marketing trend for a while, but, you know, moving into next year, it's going to be at its peak of when charities need to tap in to video. You know, if you don't leverage video messages, you know, as part of your marketing mix, you're missing the mark, and you know, you've got to meet your audience expectations. They're going to be expecting to engage and interact and learn from video from your organization. You know, it's, you know, video has, you know, great pros. You know, it's quick and effective, you know, to communicate your message and educate your audience, and to really draw them into kind of what your organization is about. Don't forget your call to actions on your videos. Make sure you've got, you know, text across your videos as well, for those that, you know, haven't got sound on, to make sure that they're still able to kind of engage in your video. It adds an emotional and a personal touch, which is really, really important for, you know, the charity sector. You know, you can go behind the scenes in video and show, you know, the impact of the donations that have been made and how they've you know, dramatically helped your charity. You know, powerful conveying, you know, it's very powerful to kind of get your organization's mission out there. You know, what's your mission statement, what's your USP, what makes you different, why should people engage in your charity, and really getting that kind of message across. So live streaming and webinars, obviously webinars will continue to be popular moving into next year. Helen's talked about kind of networking and that being kind of a real, you know, it's going to be moving into next year in terms of networking online. It's going to maybe shift a little bit and come back to face-to-face, but that online element is still going to continue. You know, organizations and networking groups have built their online platforms. People are now comfortable communicating in that way. So that will kind of continue to kind of move into next year. So different kind of video, obviously content types. I know some of you may be thinking, oh, I'm really kind of not sure, you know, what should I be talking about on video? What's going to be engaging? You know, a few kind of tips here, obviously showcasing your services and your offering, interviewing your customers or your donors, getting industry experts in to add a kind of another element to your organization and to add that kind of extra value, but obviously making sure that it's relevant and your audience are going to engage in it. Interview colleagues, interview your CEO, you know, get some kind of real insights and kind of thought leadership into your videos. Industry news, obviously trends, you know, what's happening in the industry or what's happening within your organization and how you're adapting to trends and getting that across to video. Special events, again, I know these have predominantly obviously been online, but where, you know, when we obviously do move back into kind of more kind of face-to-face events, capturing kind of video there as well is going to be really important. Social media themes, I mean, we've got you know, we've had obviously Mental Health Awareness Day, we've had Movember, you know, looking at the social media themes and how you can kind of tap into them as your organisation and put your stamp on it, and then showcasing that across in video. You know, and again, we talked about interviewing kind of colleagues, but, you know, meeting the team, you know, who are the team behind this charity? You know, what's their role? What do they do? You know, and sharing kind of their personality as well within the organisation. Okay, any questions again?
We do, we have some ready to go. So Melinda, you can ask your question about MailChimp now. Are you there?
Yep. I tried the space bar and it didn't work. Yes, I'm intrigued to know a bit more about how we can encourage the receiver to not have it get put into their spam filter, because we've been using MailChimp for absolutely ages now, and since GDPR, we've noticed quite a drastic change in that a lot of young people are saying, oh, we didn't get it, or I did, but I found it, you know, weeks later in spam filter. And just wondering if there was some way of changing or helping them to change settings and what have you.
Yeah, so it would depend. I mean, and you've checked with MailChimp that there's no kind of red flags or anything on your account.
How do we go about that?
Just try and get in touch with them if you can, or check your settings. If you have a really high bounce rate, it's not going to do very well with MailChimp in your how it's being received the other end. So check the bounce rates, make sure they're not high. If they are high, I would probably remove some of those bounces from your contact list, or maybe segment and move them into a different audience.
Right.
When you use words within your content like free, salesy words can sometimes affect your sending rate.
And that's the full content, not just the subject.
Full content.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that could affect it. I mean, usually when you're sending through MailChimp, obviously you're sending through their servers, so it shouldn't. But again, the likes, the thing is with a lot of the kind of your email platforms now, like Gmail, they've got different folders. You've got, I think, 3 different folders. It's not clutter, but it's something like that.
Yeah.
That they are getting a lot more kind of sophisticated now. I think, if you can maybe test with, are you using lots of images and video and within your emails?
Not particularly. Sometimes we've had it all just text. Sometimes it's just the header and then a couple of photographs. It's mainly just updating people of what's available, projects and what have you.
Because you can use, have you used the test preview option? So you can test on, I think you have to cover it, but it's not, you've used that as well and it all looks fine.
Yeah, looks all right.
It's worth asking as well if they're actually receiving, because on mobile you tend not to get that kind of clutter option on mobile. So it's probably worth asking if they're actually getting it on mobile but not on desktop.
Interesting. We're about to send out a survey, so I might put that as one of the questions then.
Yeah, I'll have another little thing as well.
That's grand. Thanks very much.
Anything else that I can think of? Okay.
Brilliant. Thanks for that one. Liz, you've got a couple of questions. The first one being, could you just repeat, Vicky, what EAT stands for? And then Liz, I'll let you unmute and ask your second question.
Yeah, so it's expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness.
Brilliant.
If you have the recording from the last SEO session, I covered those 3 things in terms of how you can optimize your website and content.
Oh, brilliant.
Those 3 elements.
Then I probably have that in my copious notes
from
that session. I just hadn't seen it as EAT.
No, it's not something I used last time, but those 3 elements probably cover a lot of that presentation from last.
Brilliant. That's great. Thank you. And my other question was about videos. My question is, how important is it that they be, really flash and professional looking? Because videos are expensive. And so I guess, are sort of rough and ready, just with the handheld camera recording an interview or something. Does that put people off? Does it really just depend on the sector, et cetera?
I think it depends on what you're videoing. I think if you're doing kind of an interview style and it's a lot more formal, I think it needs to be a lot more professional than if you were out and about at an event or outside doing some kind of activity. It's a tricky one. I think if you have a great iPhone camera and the quality is okay, you can maybe get some professional help in terms of just editing it rather than actually getting someone in to film.
Right. Yeah.
I think as long as you've got the background right, maybe just a clear background, you can get a kind of a stand from Amazon to put your iPhone on that can help. So I'd maybe do that if obviously budget is of an essence, and then get someone in to edit it. You can try using Canva to edit it. Canva's got some really great tools.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And there are some, I think I've got a couple actually, of video editing tools that someone sent to me that were really easy to use. So I'll get Felicity to add those in with the email.
Great. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Vicky. I'll just add on that. The Clare Foundation ran a video workshop that was brought to us by Jason Ricks from Vidstar. I don't know, Helen might be able to share the link for that, because we've got the recording.
That would be so awesome, because I actually saw that and I couldn't make it, and I did email to ask if I could see a recording and I don't think I heard anything back, or maybe it went into my spam folder and I didn't notice it.
Yeah, no, I think if it's not already available, then we can certainly get that link to you.
Oh, fab. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we'll share that link with the presentation from today and the recording from today, if you like. And Fran's just made a comment there about Lawrence. So Lawrence is a local videographer in Buckinghamshire, and Fran's put in there that she can recommend him. So there are some local guys who love to work with charities. Lawrence is one of them. I've got a few other suggestions if anybody needs any tips.
Brilliant. Right. I think, sorry, Karen had just a question going back to the email campaigns. Karen, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
That barcode on the when you're in chat doesn't work. Going back to Melinda's question, what would be a benchmark for the bounce rate for an email, a charity email campaign?
You don't want any less than 8%.
Right. Great, thank you.
Right, I think that's all for the question now.
Good. So we've got just I think 3 more slides. So I'm conscious. I know hopefully we've covered a lot of the questions during. Okay, so just touching on, excuse me, content creation. I know we talked a little bit about it throughout the presentation, but just wanted to kind of pinpoint some of the kind of key factors in terms of how you're creating and using content, because I think this is going to be really, really big, a key kind of factor in marketing for next year. So improving obviously user experience. So again, it's important that you know, how your audience are interacting with content. You know, it's just as as important as kind of what content you're actually sharing. So it's that interaction stage throughout the kind of the content process, and we've talked a little bit about adding maybe some internal links or some video or a link embedded, you know, a podcast or something like that. So making sure that you're keeping your audience kind of on the page. You know, with the overcrowding content as well, you know, it should be powerful. You know, storytelling is kind of a really, really kind of key factor here, to make sure that kind of you're telling a story within your content, and you're taking kind of people kind of on a journey. Building a community. I think there's probably two points here. Sorry, I just want to go back a track to kind of pinpoint here. It's making sure that, yeah, your content is kind of community led, you know, building community specifically around content sharing and creation. You know, can you get other people, other experts or other partners or people to kind of come and write for your organization to kind of help broaden your kind of content, your content reach, and kind of the knowledge and the value that you can bring, you know, to your website or to your social media channels. And then it's kind of building whether it's content for social or your blog or a webinar, it's going to continue focusing on making your audience feel like a community. So again, when we talked about kind of taking them on that journey, it might be that you sent an email marketing campaign and you've got a couple of blogs in there, and it's then taking them onto your website to lead to a bit more about that story. and then it might be taking them to you know, learn more through a video, or you want them to sign up to something, or you want to re-engage them again, you know, in another way. So again, it's just looking at kind of that process and making sure you're really kind of drawing them in and making them feel valued and part of your community. So some kind of tool advancements in terms of content. So, you know, we've got the likes of Facebook and Instagram stories. You know, they're kind of short snippets into kind of what you're working on or what you're currently up to, or sharing maybe some, you know, a testimonial, or looking at maybe a powerful message that you kind of want to get out. So I think, you know, still capturing kind of those story moments within your kind of Instagram and Facebook pages is going to be really important. Current content marketing tools, you know, at the moment, they're greatly aiding in researching which topics are trending. And we'll come on to kind of AI in the moment, but there are tools out there that can help you to come up with those topics that you want to talk about, and know that you are talking about trends, and you're talking and engaging in information that people want to know about. So when we look at kind of AI, so AI is artificial intelligence. I've been doing kind of you know, a lot of this over the years using Google Ads. So AI, it's a method of leveraging customer data and machine learning to anticipate your customer's next move and improve the customer journey. So, you know, in particular, Google uses kind of how people have engaged with your ads previously to then know how to re-engage with them moving forward, or help you to kind of reach an audience that have a kind of a similar interest or demographic. So it's kind of lots of machine learning behind the scenes. And Google is really, artificial intelligence is now using that to support you with your content creation. I'll send a couple of tools links over to you to kind of help you to kind of come up with some topics that will kind of really help you moving forward, to make sure that you're sharing the right information that people are talking about right now, to help build that kind of brand, that visibility online. And then just kind of one thing, so 51% of marketers are already using artificial intelligence, and 27% are planning to use it in the near future. So it is something that's now being rolled out across the marketing funnel. So it's not just now for Google ads and Facebook ads, it's now being used within other kind of marketing areas, like helping you to create content. So looking at the kind of the donation process, I thought I'd kind of put this in here for those of you that are trying to kind of increase kind of your, I guess, your donations that come into the charity. I think, you know, this year, so it says the first half of 2020 saw an 800 million increase from the UK public on the year before in terms of donations. So we know that it's, you know, it's massively kind of improved throughout the year. I think the challenge now moving forward into 2021 is encouraging the reoccurring donations. So it's how you're using the new audience that you have into re-engaging them to interact and connect with you moving into next year. You know, so what channels you know, are they using, you know, your audience? You know, are they predominantly on Facebook, or are they on Instagram, or do they like to be communicated through email? You know, if they're more, you know, in terms of demographic, if they're, you know, the older audience, they might prefer a direct mail. So again, think about the types of channels that your audience are using. And when we looked at kind of the marketing strategy and planning on the first presentation, we built an audience profile. Go back to that audience profile and really have a think about how that connects with your kind of donation process and how you can kind of reach them through the different channels. Your audience more than ever will want a quick donation process, and I think I read that they want it less than 30 seconds. So how can you achieve that either on your website, or we'll talk about this in a minute, using kind of in-app, the in-app donation process through social media. You know, and how easy is it for them to donate? And how are you using the data? So once they've donated to your charity, how are you using that data moving forward to then re-engage and to then keep them within your network and kind of keep that kind of communication going to kind of help them, again, talking about building and bringing them, making them feel like they're more of a community. So yeah, one-click buy opportunities, again, really kind of supports that kind of fast track that your audience will want more now moving into next year. You know, similar to the kind of Amazon's button, you know, they've leveraged technology that enable PayPal and Apple Pay. Can you incorporate that into your website and your social media channels to make it kind of a quick and easy donation process for your audience? And we've mentioned SMS, obviously marketing, being that it's, you know, a lot more natural and a lot more open. People are a lot more open to it now than they ever have been. So, you know, using kind of text messaging as a way of encouraging donations. You know, and it's creating a seamless kind of, again, mobile experience next year, from websites and donation forms to digital, you know, campaigns. You know, it's inspiring them to support your cause. And again, that kind of ties into kind of your content creation. You know, so if you are looking at donations, making sure that your content really supports that, so it's a lot more personable and engaging. So we've talked about voice. No, we haven't. We will be talking about voice search, but just to kind of pick up on it here, I think I saw the British Heart Foundation. They became the first in the UK in terms, you know, as a charity, to allow donations through Amazon Alexa. So we will come on to voice search in a minute, but something to bear in mind moving into next year, that voice search is massively growing. So something kind of to think about in terms of a trend for next year. I think, you know, going back to kind of the Gen Z as well, you know, looking at that kind of younger kind of demographic, you know, they are the ones that are going to be kind of leading the way in these trends as well. So when, you know, you are looking again at the whole donation process, making sure that you're taking them into consideration in how they like to be engaged with. And then re-engaging, obviously we've talked about kind of the increase in donations across the board this year, but then it's obviously moving into next year, how you're kind of re-engaging them into your organisation. Using a database platform, you know, like a kind of a CRM, maybe that kind of helps to identify, you know, who your kind of audience are that maybe haven't engaged for a while, so you can then re-engage with them. Again, mentioned integrating that into kind of MailChimp to then kind of send targeted kind of email campaigns to those that might not have engaged for a while. You can use analytics and reporting tools. So you've obviously got MailChimp Insights, you've got social media insights, you've got Google Analytics. All this kind of information helps you to kind of identify, you know, those audiences that might not be as engaged as they were before. And and an easy checkout process that remembers, you know, their past information, you know, and moves them through the process to their preferred, you know, at their preferred pace. So if they have obviously made the donation, what happens then? So it might be worth putting together kind of a process map as a kind of a marketing process, as a way of how you kind of re-engage and make sure they're not getting lost in the mix. And then brand partnerships and affiliations obviously continue to be a vital part of successful marketing, you know, into kind of 2021. It'll be the year, you know, in which charities continue to move past, you know, a lot of bigger charities are using kind of celebrity endorsements or well-known people. And it, you know, it's going to continue that way, but I think a lot more organizations now are going to integrate more familiar and reliable influencers, so they might be more kind of industry known rather than from that kind of celebrity area. I think, you know, particularly with the charity side, they need to be kind of really careful about who they use in terms of kind of endorsements and influencers, but influencers are going to continue to rise into next year. So kind of touching on voice search, so I've mentioned that it's so voice search is a function that allows users to search the web, you know, using kind of your voice commands rather than kind of going onto your phone or your computer to type. You know, and it can be used on desktop or kind of mobile searches, or using kind of the devices that you have, you know, around the home. So I saw that it's estimated that in 5 years' time, at least 50% of searches will be carried out through speech or image searches, which is, you know, really surprising, and something obviously we need to kind of take into account when we're kind of building kind of our websites moving forward, writing content. We need to be kind of conscious of that and how we optimize for voice search. So yeah, talked about kind of the growth of voice search, and I think I've got a little kind of graph here. When did you first start using voice search commands? And you can see, and this is this year, within the last 6 months, 41%. So definitely something to kind of think about when it comes to kind of optimization of your website and content. The people who are using voice search, I think predominantly are going to be more your kind of younger audience. I think that will change as time goes on. I think it's obviously, we can see it's grown in the last 6 months, but I think it's going to grow even further. So I think, you know, targeting a wide audience with this as a kind of an SEO or content strategy is going to be important, and optimizing your website for voice search. Obviously, it's going to be massively important, because if you've not achieved or developed this within your SEO, you're going to be missing out on lots of opportunities. You know, if you've been utilizing SEO best practices over the years, then you know, and if you're on top of your SEO, there's probably not much more you need to do. There'll be a couple of things that I'll talk about, but if you haven't, now is the time to do it. And I think the first place to start is to think about the questions that your audience might ask. And sometimes it's just worth having a think about, you know, when you're receiving those phone calls from prospects or customers or whoever your audience are, what kind of questions are they asking? Is there a trend in what they're asking? Are they asking similar things? Because the likelihood is that they're going to be asking these questions on Google. Make sure your Google My Business profile is up to date. More importantly for local SEO and local searches, but also important in general. Make sure you've got your full address, your opening times, maybe even add a COVID update. You know, you can post through Google My Business like you would on Facebook or Instagram. They only appear in results for 2 weeks, so you need to obviously keep making sure it's updated. But Google My Business appears on the right hand side of Google searches. You've got your Google Maps and some images and then a profile underneath. Your posts will feature in that block. It allows you to keep your activity current, shows what you're working on in Google search immediately. And will help, you know, if people are using voice search to look for opening times, or your address, or you know, using your Google My Business profile could have some kind of important keywords in there as well to help for you to come up in the results. I want to just touch here on Bing and Google. Obviously, you know, with Microsoft using Bing as their kind of main search engine. So obviously Apple Siri uses Bing search engine, and Amazon Alexa I think uses Google. So they use different search engines. And I think I just want kind of to, if this obviously comes up as a kind of a query for you, that they are very, very similar in how they work. So if you've optimized for Google, you're going to be fine on Bing. They work very kind of similar, but there are some small slight differences. So Bing is more likely to rank for local searches. Bing requires the exact keywords both in the content as well as your kind of page titles and your meta descriptions for your pages. So when you've got your SEO plugin on your website, which if you haven't got, you should get, making sure you've got the exact same keywords in both of those sections. And Bing also look out for newer and more popular websites. So if your website's very well engaged and you've got high volumes of traffic, Bing will rank it better than it will for somebody that's not consistently updating their website. Google provides factual information while Bing would provide more socially relevant information. So just to give you kind of a bit of an overview on both of those. So I know Bing is coming up quite a lot with some queries that people have been asking me about on how they optimize for both. But if you're, whatever you're doing, if you're fully optimizing for Google, there's only a few small tweaks that makes the difference between Bing and Google, but you'll be fine. Wanted to talk about schema markup. Again, probably not something that a lot of you are familiar with, but it's a code that adds to your website to help Google to kind of read important information. It's a WordPress plugin that you can add. So if you're kind of, you know, if you've authored maybe an article and you've got kind of the date and the time, and you're really trying to kind of build your personal profile onto Google, you can kind of add that kind of markup to that text to kind of help your article to kind of appear. So if somebody searched for my name, it would help that article to kind of come up in the search results, just as kind of as an example. Again, your web developer or marketing expert can help with that. And then I've mentioned using long-tailed conversational words to help you to feature in results. So obviously when people are using voice search, there are a lot of the kind of keywords are going to be a lot longer. So we talked about that in the previous content slide. So really kind of look at that when you're optimizing for voice search as well. Sorry, I know we're near finished. Just going to finish on virtual reality. According to a study by Gartner in 2021, more than 70% of companies will implement immersive technology like virtual reality. I know when I did my research on this, there are a lot of charities that have really tapped into this, you know, particularly at events. They've been able to kind of really engage with their audience by bringing them actually into kind of a real life storytelling of what their charity is about, how they can kind of raise awareness, and how they can educate through virtual reality. It's a really, really powerful and engaging technique to kind of win your kind of audience over and really kind of give them that kind of experience of knowing more about the charity. So just to summarize, I've just put kind of a few kind of key points on here. Test new social media trends. Obviously, not all the channels, all the trends are going to be the right option for you, but sometimes it's just all about testing and seeing what works, what doesn't work. Speak to your audience in real time. Look at messages, Facebook, chatbot, how you can answer their needs and their queries straight away and give them the information that they need. Segment your audience into groups for smarter, more personalized marketing. Again, using your customer data, using your MailChimp data to be more sophisticated. Revisit your website content and make sure that you're using the EAT principle, particularly around content, and make sure your site is mobile friendly. You can use the link to get the test to see how you're performing on that area. Include video in your marketing strategy, really, really kind of important. So live streaming, storytelling video, upload them onto YouTube, share them across your channels.
Vicky, sorry to interrupt. The slide hasn't moved on.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Go back one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. Use marketing tools and AI to support your content efforts and take your customers or your audience on a journey. So looking at kind of your processes, your automations, and how you're continually engaging and re-engaging with your audience. Ensure your donation process is quick, simple, and have data capture in mind, again, so you can kind of re-engage with them and take them through that kind of, I'm going to call it kind of a sales journey, if you like, to keep them kind of engaged and captivated into your charity. Remember voice search. Obviously, it's a really growing area when it comes to writing your content, and bring your charity to life with virtual reality, particularly when you're maybe at events. So that's the end of the presentation. Thank you, everybody. I think I'm maybe 5 minutes behind.
Thank you very much, Vicky. That was brilliant. We have got a couple of questions that have come up. One from Liz going back to Facebook and stories. Liz, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, sure. It's a little embarrassing, really. I think I'm just old, but I have never, ever since Facebook, I don't really use Instagram because I'm old, but Facebook, ever since I introduced stories, I'm like, what is this? I do not see the point. I do not see how they differ from just putting a post up. So what am I missing? How are people interacting with stories in a way that they're not with regular posts?
So your posts will fall down a feed, if you like. So as soon as you post something, in your audience feed, it soon moves lower and lower and lower and lower, whereas your story stays predominantly at the top.
Okay.
That's probably the one of the most kind of important reasons why stories are great. And also with stories, it can be kind of a really just quick post, whereas your kind of posts that kind of come up in or you're sharing on your feed are probably a lot more detailed and maybe have a bit more of a story behind them. Stories are more of like just a snapshot.
Okay. So it sounds, I mean, just from my non-social media optimized brain, it sounds like the most important benefit is that they're sort of up there in the top in that kind of row. But then if people are seeing lots of stories, they're still going to get lost in that too, aren't they?
They do slide along, yes, but stories continue, so you don't click on one and then come out again. The stories continue and continue and continue. So as long as they click on one,
right,
likely to continue and see yours.
right. Okay, thank you.
Right.
Brilliant, thanks for that, Liz. There's just one more question from Charlie. It's about setting up the text message donations. Charlie, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here. I haven't frozen yet. PC attire, but I don't have the luxury of heating. So we have the text facility set up here. So obviously people can donate by text. But if I actually want to do a campaign to send a text message out, where do I go to get that information on how to do that? Because it's not something I've done before.
You can, I think MailChimp have that function.
Oh, really? Okay.
Quite honestly, I'm not, I mean, I think MailChimp do. I'd probably have to go away and see the best kind of tool for that. Yeah, it's not something I've touched on yet, but no, most certainly I can go away and see if I can find the right tool for you.
Okay, thank you. Because we've currently, we've only had the free MailChimp up till now, which I'm just changing because it's not very good. So it might just be that I haven't got access to that currently, but okay, that's great. Thanks.
Yeah, it would more likely be with a paid feature.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
That's all right.
We've had lots of nice thanks in the chat that you can go through at the end, but I just wanted to personally thank you. All three sessions have been really informative, and
it's been great.
We've had really lovely feedback. But can I hand over to our CEO Martin just to sum everything up?
Well, just say congratulations on a really innovative workshop. I mean, Vicky, you bring everything to life, and you were on the radio yesterday and brought a whole lot of stuff to life as well in the conversation. But everyone here, I'm sure, for some of us who are a little bit older, I'll take that hat myself, we have to learn how the digital world works. And I've known you for 5 years now, and if it wasn't for you, I don't think the Clare Foundation would have moved out of the prehistoric age.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
But in a way, you know, I am on behalf of trustees grateful for what you do for us. I'm sure the work that you could do with others, guiding them, providing them with some insight on a one-to-one basis would be a good thing as well. Maybe that's something we can talk about, Felicity and Helen, at the right time.
Yeah.
From all of us here at the Clare Foundation, I'd just like to say thank you to you. A big thank you to Felicity, who only joined us in September, and as of yesterday has joined us full time and has come in as our charity services manager. So congratulations to Felicity for her new role. She officially takes up on the 1st of January. And to all of you good people who have joined us here for these 3 workshops. I've not managed to be on all of them, but I've managed to get into today's. And again, to Vicky, to all of you, and may I wish you all a joyful and quiet, safe Christmas. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks, Martin.
Brilliant, thanks a lot. I'll be sending around the email, and to those that missed either of the sessions, I'll include a link to all of the sessions so that you can catch up with them. But thanks a lot. Make sure you keep checking the events section of the Clare Foundation. In January, we'll be popping up some more events that we'll have planned for the next year. But thank you very much, and we'll hope to see you all soon. Take care.
Bye, everybody.